Hello there and welcome back to my channel. So for the end of the November stats, I've had to split it into two videos because it was getting way too long to do the reviews and the stats in the same video. So welcome to my review stroke reading journal video. So in theory, in the comments you can try and guess which one you think might be my favourite and my least favourite out of this pile. That might be an interesting one to try. Anyway, so the first thing I'm going to do is this will come out in a very strange order because I didn't have all the stickers at the same time. So I had to do it over several days. So you might find that we might zip backwards and forwards a little bit. I also apologise, I have a little bit of a cold. So if you hear me sniffle, I'm so sorry. But I still wanted to do this. Otherwise I'd get out of whack again. So the first three books we've done is Think Again by Jacqueline Wilson, The Pumpkin Spice Cafe and The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. You'll find there's quite a lot of books this month. I seem to have got through quite a lot. But if you like to carry on seeing what I'm reading, then please feel free to like, subscribe, do all those YouTubey bits. There were a couple out of the month that I DNF'd. So Karen Swan, Christmas at Candlelight, and then there's one later on which I DNF'd. So what I'm doing now is I'm just putting all my books in, the book covers that I've got, and then I'm colouring in the stars, which is related to the star rating that I've given it on Goodreads. So Jacqueline Wilson, I grew up on those books. I grew up on them. I loved every Jacqueline Wilson. I loved the Girls series, and to be honest, I loved the one, that came back. I was just so excited to see that it was coming back as an adult book. Some of the other ones are romances. Obviously, I've started Christmas Bookopoly, so if you watched my November Christmas books video, Bookopoly, so you can see where I did my first 5 rolls. It wasn't as successful this month as I think it would have been, because I DNF'd 2 of the Christmas books, but at least I know rather than not. So back to the Jacqueline Wilson. So I read this book series as a teenager. Oh my god, it was the in thing. It was even on the television. So, but this book, even though you'd think, oh, why isn't this a teenage book? And it's like, it really isn't. It's an adult book through and through. They're all 40. They're all up to no good. And to be honest, there was so much content. It kept me focused throughout. I read this book in a couple of days, I think, because it was just so good. I do think that Jacqueline Wilson does need to write some more adult books, to be honest, because I really enjoyed that one, and I would quite happily, even if they were different characters, I would come and read another one by her. I'm not quite so good with the kids' ones anymore. As much as I'd love to read the kids' ones, some of them I don't quite get on with as well as I did when I was a child. But let's face it, if she wrote some more adult books, I'd be first in that queue. Because it was just amazing. I think I met her once at a book festival in Winchester. She was very lovely. So, moving on to the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. This was a recommendation by several people, which was quite interesting. And I found that I didn't get on with this one as much as I hoped I would. So, I'm almost like, I listened to this one. And I'm sure that... And I just felt that I was getting lost throughout it. It is quite easygoing as it is, but I just found that I wasn't keeping in touch with the characters. I don't feel I loved them as much as other characters in other books. So, although it was a really good read, I feel like I'm definitely going to have to read the next one I did read the next one, because it's about a bookstore, and let's face it, if it's got a library or a bookstore in it, I'm there. No questions asked. Totally there. So this one was a bit mediocre, but we'll see how the next one went. So the next one was a Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. I was hooked. I enjoyed this one way more than the first one. So if anyone out there that's read the Pumpkin Spice Cafe and not really liked it that much, read the next one, because the next one was really good. I really enjoyed that one. There's another love story. Of course, it is based around a bookstore, and it was just lovely. It brought back the characters from the previous book, but it also introduced some new ones. And it was just lovely how the village got together, and it was all lovely in a bookstore, and she was running a bookstore. And he treated her exactly how you'd want to be treated in life, and it was just beautiful. So yeah, I absolutely loved it. So therefore then I had to go and read the third one, which is over the page in the end. If I'd have thought this through, I might have put it on the same series as I read them in the same month on the same page, but, you know, sometimes you just don't think about these things. But this one was definitely better than the first one. I definitely would agree that everyone should read this one. I mean, as long as you like Little American Towns. If you don't like books that are set in Little American Towns, then I'd give it a miss, to be brutally honest. So on to the first one that I DNF'd. I mean, I gave this one so many goes. It was on Kindle. I normally like Karen Swan. I just didn't like the characters in this one. I couldn't feel like I could carry on. I didn't really care about them. It was almost like I didn't care about them. I didn't care what was happening. I was just like, no, I can fight this. I've been fighting it for a week, and I'm thinking this is too long. So it's like if you're not going to pick it up again within a week, it's like, and stop. So then we get onto the Christmas Tree Farm, which is the third one in the series of these three American things. There are 5, I think. There are 2 coming out next year. But they are called, that's it, Dream Harbour. They are the Dream Harbour set, because that's the little town that they're based in. And this time it's a Christmas tree farm, so there's another lovely lady that moves to the area, and a chap that moves to the area as well, and he walks his dogs across the Christmas tree farm. It was lovely. It was a bit it was a little bit, you know, everyone hated each other to begin with, but you know, that's fine. And it was actually really lovely. It was very enemies to lovers, but it was very good at the end. It brought back all the original characters, and it shows how if a little village or a little town can get together to make something work, they can, because then everyone buys their Christmas tree from the newly resurrected Christmas tree farm that had been closed for a while. So it was just a lovely start to my Christmas book journey, considering that Karen Swan was a little bit of a letdown on this occasion. I will read more though. So, carrying on with Whitstable Pearl. So, I think the aim now is to listen to one of these once a month. Even though I think I've managed to get 2 in this month. So, in this one, there's another death, but this time it's not in Whitstable Bay. They literally go somewhere else, Pilgrim's Way, and they are on holiday, and somebody dies. So, you've got to love it when a group of residents go off on holiday, and the first thing that happens is, well, it's not quite the first thing that happens, but, you know, somebody dies, and then you have to go and find out who did it, preferably before you leave. I did like the fact that DCI Maguire was back, because I do like him. I'm hoping that one day they'll get together, because let's face it, they've been trying not to for so long, and, you know, they just need to do it. But I always love a Julie Wasmer. I am loving the getting up to date with them. So we're now on to the second day, because I've obviously gone and printed some stickers. Woohoo! So now we can do the 2 at the beginning of the month. So the first one is going to be the happy hour, and the second one is Babysitters on Board. So there's a reason why I'm reading the Babysitters Club books. So, you know, hang fire for a moment, and then I will explain everything. I'm not reading all of them, I'm just reading certain ones. So, I'm finding it hard to get my stickers off the backing. But, so, I've given them, I think I gave Happy Hour 3 stars. Actually, I think I gave them both 3 stars in the end. I did love Happy Hour, and I liked the Babysitters Club one. It was really reminiscent of my childhood, because this was one of the ones that I hadn't read. Oh, I gave it 4. This is one of the ones I hadn't read as a child. So, it was quite interesting to see that difference. So back to Happy Hour. With this book, it's almost like they've got 1 hour, one on a Sunday, where they can chat, you know, and fall in love. And can you fall in love with someone with just an hour a week? So originally it looks like, oh my god, this is going to be so funny. It's going to be weird. It's going to be everything under the sun. But I do like the author. I do like President McLaughlin. So I thought, we'll give it a try. I've loved all the rest of it. And I love this one too. So, it turns out that you possibly can fall in love with an hour a week. It's literally her lunch hour from the museum shop where she works. And it is his hour off that he has from caring responsibilities. So literally they meet on a bench and then they just talk and have coffee. And, it's just so incredibly real. It's not like they have endless amounts of time to walk along, the promenade, or I know that's a very American term. But, it's quite interesting to see how, we've got to do it quick. If we're going to get to know each other, it's like, go for it. And it was interesting to see this story from various different angles from the other marketplace holders that are outside where she works. So that was really interesting. So on to the Babysitters Club. I bought some of these thinking that I was going to reread them, or I had some of them saved from my childhood. But then a few weeks ago, you'll find there's a video in a couple of days' time where I've unhauled them because I don't think I'm going to read them. When I was reading I won't say the generic ones, not the special ones, I just found that I wasn't getting into them. They weren't as exciting as they were. Obviously, I'm different as to what I was when I was a kid. But part of me wants to read the special ones. There's about 6 or 7 special ones that I want to read. So I'm reading those ones, and then the whole lot is going. I have already scanned them into, it's not Zipfit anymore, World of Books, and then I'm going to be sending the box off when I've read the last 2, and then that box will be going off because I just need to make sure I need to clear some space. I've now got my TBR pile in one place, so we can start going through it in January. But it was a really fun read all the same. Okay, so this one is a book that my mum gave me. Well, she borrowed it, and then I borrowed it off of her. Because I always love a good Fiona Gibson. It's just, there's always a big, huge problem, and then it's fine in the end, but there's always some huge, oh my god moment. Right in the middle, there's some charade that needs to be dealt with. And this book did not disappoint. She's one of my favourite authors, and it has so much comedic value, which is amazing, because it's almost like, yes, they're going through a tough time, but you get the funny side too. So, you can laugh as well as, feel for these characters. And with all of her characters, I mean, I've not read all of her books, but with the majority of the books of hers that I've read, you love the characters, you almost want to be their friend. So there's a group of 3 of them that decide to go on holiday to Scotland a few days before Christmas. And then they end up running the B&B for the chap, and it just, of course, it's all going to go completely wrong, and it's all going to be a mess. But at the end of the day, it's Christmas, and everyone manages to look after themselves, as it always is. But it's about the people that they meet, and they get snowed in, and then they try and get fish and chips, and the nearest fish and chip shop's like an hour away, and it's just absolutely absolute madness, to be brutally honest. But you can't help but laugh. I read that one in less than a day. It was I was hooked. It's a good job I was on annual leave and not at work. Otherwise I'd have had to make it last a bit longer, and once you start Fiona Gibson, you just keep going. So moving on, we are now going to be looking at Chasing Christmas Eve. Now, this is going to be the other one that I DNF'd. I did feel really bad about DNFing this one, but I wasn't getting into it. Then I figured out that it was the 4th one in a series, and I didn't like the backdrop. I didn't really like the characters. You can see that there's a pattern emerging here, but it just wasn't for me, to be honest. I did try listening to it, but then I didn't like the person reading it either, so it's nothing against them. I just didn't get on with their voice. So on to some new stickers now. We have Christmas at the Little Sewing Box. So I actually get this as an audiobook because I've wanted to read this one for years. Oh, and Richard Osman. That was a quick one because there was reservations on that one, even though I so wanted to read it and I enjoyed the other one. And then another Christmas one that I've owned for a very long time, The Christmas at the Village Sewing Shop. Helen Rolfe is another one of my favourite people to read. And then I've got a biography, Dancing in the Rain by Amy Dowden, because I've always felt so inspired by her journey. And it was just a really interesting read. And then we have The Little Village Christmas, which is the last one of the Christmas Bookopoly for this month. So let's put some stars in, and I can go back to talking about the Christmas in the Little Knitting Box. So she has a knitting shop in a little village. I love these little American village and towns that have knitting shops, but of course it's all going to be up in the air because it's Christmas and the chap that owns the building that they're renting from is selling up. So Helen Rolfe never fails to disappoint. I don't know how she managed to write, because she writes several books a year, and it's just amazing the fact that they're such good books, because you think that it'd be quality versus quantity, but with her you get both all the way. Then she ends up, as we say, falling in love with the person who sold the building where her shop is. She then gets the opportunity to come back to England because they're in America. She's in New York, I think. And then, yeah, and it's like how she makes the decisions, how she decides whether she's going to stay in New York or come back to Britain, whether she's going to be able to market her sewing shop, her knitting shop somewhere else. Can she forgive the guy that sold it even? Because it's quite interesting, the storyline and how it weaves, which is quite interesting. So there's a lot of story generation that goes into it. But in the true Helen Rolfe fashion, everything starts off nicely and it ends nicely. And you'd end up having characters that you do truly fall in love with. This is the first one in a series. Luckily it's the first one because I enjoyed it so much. And then I'm going to start reading, probably, the other ones aren't Christmassy, so I'll probably continue that in January. But I do want to continue reading the series because it was really interesting. But it always shows that love's not an easy ride and that you do have to work with it. And, luckily they do find somewhere else to have the knitting shop. I'm not going to tell you whether it's in America. I'm not going to tell you whether it's in England. And I'm not going to tell you whether she gets the man. You'll have to go and read it and find out. But it was an absolutely great read. I listened to it and I was totally hooked. I've listened to an awful lot of books this month because I've been crocheting a present for somebody. So I've been doing a lot of listening this month while I've been crocheting. So you'll find that I've listened to more books than I've read. But that will become more in the next video when I actually look at my stats. But yeah, I listened to way more than I read. But yes, the knitting shop was definitely I definitely read the rest of the series. So, on to Richard Osmond. I don't know why I was surprised that when I tried to renew this book, it had reservations on it. So, cue a very fast reading target. I read 100 pages a day and got it done in the 4 days that I needed to do it before it went back. So that was amazing. But it's all about a family who start solving murders and, they all club in together to help. And then, and they've got the help of an author because she works for a company that does security. So they're looking after an author to begin with. And obviously she wants to come and, and follow them on their trek to find out the answer because people are being murdered. And let's go, who wouldn't want to go and find out who's doing the murdering, however unsafe that seems. I think I'd rather read about it at home. It's definitely start looking like it's going to be a new series, so I'm quite excited about that. I definitely enjoyed this one more than some of the other ones. I think I was starting to get to the point where some of the residents of the care home for the Thursday Murder Club were starting to get a little bit annoying, but then I did read them back to back, so I feel like I just needed a bit of a gap between them all. So on to another Helen Rolfe now. this one is set in another small village in America, and it's about a group of sisters who, 3 sisters rather, who they all used to sew together, they all used to obviously live together, but they all now live in completely different places with completely different lives, and only the younger one still runs the sewing shop that stayed in the family. And it's all about how they get together one Christmas because their mother says, you've all got to come back for Christmas. So they all come back, and it's how they then navigate talking to each other, because they generally haven't seen each other for very often in the last goodness knows how many years. They literally come back to the town to see their grandfather, who is in a care home. So there's twists and turns all the way, and, even I didn't see half of them coming. But it's very heartwarmingly Helen Rolfe, which, it's amazing. I do love a good bit of Helen Rolfe. Okay, so Amy Dowden, where do I start? I was hooked. So this is an autobiography. She wrote it herself, and it was really interesting because I did wonder whether it was going to be purely based around her journey, her cancer journey, which, although I feel that's important, I really wanted to know about her early life as well. Luckily, I wasn't disappointed. There was a lot about her early life and her family and her growing up with Crohn's, because it's just interesting to get that perception and then seeing how that then works. I mean, unfortunately, as she went on honeymoon, she did get diagnosed with cancer, or she found a lump and then later got diagnosed with cancer. But the fact that she's come through it with the strength and resilience, I think we could all learn a heck of a lot from this book. It was very emotional, but it seriously provoked a lot of thought. And I would be encouraging people to read that. So now we're on to Some Like It Cold. Elle McNichol is amazing. Absolutely amazing. She always writes books with a neurodiverse main character. And they always seem to also have, they're generally masking their neurodiversity. And then you find that they always come good in the end. They always find that, they fight back. And this is what I truly love about Elle McNichol, because, it's always told from the perspective of a neurodiverse person and how they're navigating the world, which I find is really, really interesting. And I've never not loved an Elle McNichol. And it's always, there'll be one of my friends that will be laughing right now. But it kind of shows me how to live, not how to live my life, but it shows me a different variation on what I think is real and what I don't. Okay, so the last book is The Little Village Christmas. This is the first Sue Moorcroft I've read. I was amazed that the characters' book was so lovable. They were so easy to get on with. Back to Little American Villages again. It's just, they all get together, they all solve a problem, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So those are the books that I read this month in November. There'll be a video tomorrow that will tell you which ones were my favourite or my least favourite. But if you want to comment down below as to what you think was my favourite and my least favourite, and we'll have a look at it tomorrow. But if you like what you're seeing, please like, comment, subscribe if you want to. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care.